Hey, everyone. I'm Kai Chimura, the host of the Soccerpedia podcast. For today's episode, I have a friend of mine, David Donis, who is also a soccer podcast host. He has a weekly podcast called Sunday League's Finest. So check him out. We're just going to be talking about a lot of different soccer topics. And yeah, hopefully you enjoy. Hey, what's up, David? Oh, you're muted.
All right. I'm not sure why I was
Oh,
muted.
oh, it's all good. How's it going?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I've noticed that you also have kind of ventured into the soccer podcast arena. So yeah, I just kind of put in a plug for your show. You put it on weekly, right?
Yeah, so it's hard not to get into the podcasting world these days because everybody seems to have one. But I mean, it's the way the world we live in now, and technology has made it so much easier. But yeah, I have a podcast I do with my cousin Obi Hernandez. It's called the Sunday League's Finest. So it's we do it weekly, like you mentioned, and it's just a fun podcast. And we pride ourselves on being non-PC, so sometimes we say things a little bit off the cuff. So sometimes we get in a little bit in trouble, but it is what it is. Everybody's got their own things, so that's ours.
Yeah, that's totally it's cool. And like you said, like with the world we live in, and it seems that the podcast world has been kind of exploding with everybody having their own thing and people finding interest in whatever the heck they want to talk about. So it's cool.
Exactly.
What's been I guess this summer especially, a lot's been going on in the soccer world. Tell us what you've been kind of which teams you've been invested in, and yeah, let's start off with that. What do you think so far with Copa America or the Euros or even Olympic qualifying?
Yeah, you know what's funny is that on Wednesday it's so ecstatic because there were Euro games, there was Copa America games, Atlanta United was playing, and then you also just top it off, you had the Hawks play later on, and they won their first game in the Eastern Conference Final. So hell yeah. And then today there's nothing. So
Yeah.
it's kind of bummed me out. And I was talking to my cousin about this on our podcast that we've been so spoiled to have soccer every day, and it feels like almost like when the World Cup's going on, where there's a game every day. It's so exciting. So now that you start getting to like the later rounds where the Euros are in, where they're in the knockout, now you gotta be a little bit more patient. So it's a little bit tougher. But yeah, it's been great watching soccer. With the Euros, the Copa America. Um, I'll get your opinion on this. I already think I know what you might say. But I've actually, I'm more inclined to watch Copa America over the Euros. And to me, the reason being is I think the Copa America, that it's just it's like CONCACAF, but like on steroids because the teams are better. And to me, it's a little bit it's a more spicier. In Europe, there's more of a structure to things. So, just to dumb it out, it's more gentleman like. Where in Copa America and even CONCACAF, they don't care who you play for or who you are. They're still going to take you out. So sometimes, even though it gets a little wild at times, I think the other day, uh, was it the Brazil game where they were about to have like a fight for like
Mhm.
15, 20 minutes of the game. So it's a different feel than the Euros, but obviously the Euros are great too because you get to see the top players from around the world. So each has its own unique feel to it that just makes it exciting to watch. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good, yeah, good analysis to differentiate between the two different tournament styles. I've been, of course, keeping up more with the Euros just because it's, for me, the availability to watch the Euros are much better because I know isn't how what station does Copa America Copa America come on in the U.S.? Is it on the Fox Sports?
Well, I've actually been surprised that they actually have a lot of their games on FS1, but
Okay.
not all of them are going to be on there. And I think the last game they usually have them on at the same time, to avoid collusion and all that. So they're probably going to have one on FS1 and one on FS2 and sometimes a Spanish channel. So yeah, I know those channels most folks don't have.
Yeah, and I think that's an overall problem where, I mean, especially these days, it makes it it's been so hard to watch any type of sports on TV because there's so many different streaming services. It's hard to keep up with all of that. But for
Tell me about
Euros,
it.
it was just all 51 games are on ESPN app, so it was just easier for me to just download the app, pay a subscription, and be able to just catch them all. So and I think the Euros this summer, of course, it's been played. I think it's a bad idea that it's been kind of floated all across so many different cities across different countries, that you force some teams to travel ridiculous distances. And England, for example, has not had to travel once at all so far, which is which is very interesting. And then also just another, of course, this goes into a realm of whole different geopolitical stuff where Europe now seems to be dealing with the coronavirus a little bit better compared to Brazil or other South American nations, because of course Brazil has not allowed spectators in, while in the Euros you do have spectators, depending on the country, of course, bringing in more of a different atmosphere, of course, because it's definitely different for the teams to be playing in front of spectators, I'd say.
For sure.
And it's interesting as well how now with the round of 16 starting tomorrow, how the different brackets have kind of stacked up. One side of the bracket looks definitely more competitive than the other side. So one thing that I noticed that it's like, oh man, tough. It's kind of, you had to really feel kind of down if you're Belgium winning your group, dominating the group, and then lo and behold, you get to play Portugal in the first in the round of 16, while a team like Denmark, who scraped by with just one win, gets to play Wales. So it's kind of interesting how that all plays out.
Hey, are you dogging Wales?
Yeah, man. I mean, Wales is no. Wales is I mean, come on, they're a bit better than North Macedonia, but I mean, they're not. They're not France or credit to them. They're a decent side.
Well, I mean, yeah, it was surprising that they were even got through from the group, because I thought Switzerland was going to make it through.
Well, they did.
You're right, they did. But I guess as second in the group.
Mm-hmm. Man,
it's Gareth Bale for you, baby.
Yeah, Gareth Bale still has that top class. Vision doesn't. That's one skill that never really goes away for a professional player is skill and not skill, but vision on the ball, knowing at least where teammates are. Because I think it was that Turkey game where Wales soundly defeated them. Where Bale found Ramsey open at least 5 or 6 times, yeah, Wales. I mean, they're not a bad squad, but they're not the most fanciest, I'd say.
Yeah, you think Gareth Bale signs with a big club, or you think he's ready to head to MLS?
I think, well, he's 31 or 32 right now. I'd say as long. I got to really look at which MLS teams as far as like their salary. I mean, they have the salary cap situation. So, of course, Bale is not somebody who's going to not warrant the designated player label to him. So, unless if he's going to go to MLS, it's going to be a larger market team. That's how that usually happens for a lot of these superstars that comes over.
You're saying he doesn't want to play for the San Jose Earthquakes?
I don't think that's probably not San Jose Earthquakes. Probably not going to want to be in Minnesota. I don't know. Or Nashville. I could see Gareth Bale heading up those Nashville bars though.
Yeah, but freaking obviously he loves to golf, and you got David Beckham in Miami over here citing like 10 DPs at a time. So. Yeah. You never know.
Didn't they get in trouble for that financial stuff? So
yeah, they got fined. They're taking I'm trying to remember the number, but I think they're taking like a 2.5 million salary cap hit for the next 2 years, and the owner was fined So a bunch of stuff. So,
Yeah.
but that's the craziness of MLS, since all these clubs around the world don't have salary cap restrictions, but MLS does. So, it's just, it is the way it is. I'm not saying I'm for completely removing the salary cap, because I don't like having mega clubs where the same 2 to 3 clubs win it every year. But I mean, I think the MLS salary cap is like, I don't know, 5 to 6 million.
Yeah, it's
Nothing.
pretty low because you have, of course, the DP. I mean, the DPs they make. I mean, pretty. I mean, even if you're not a DP, you still make good living. But geez, it just gets swallowed by even the mid tier leagues in Europe. They make probably like 2 or 3 times as much money. So it's just yeah, that's kind of, I think that definitely hinders some of the. Or make some players, unless you're at the tail end of their careers, to kind of question coming into MLS, even though the quality has gotten a lot better over the last, I'd say, decade.
For sure. But just to stay on the Euros, you were pulling for Finland, right?
Yeah, I was half Finnish. Of course, naturally, I'd want to go root for them. It was their first ever major tournament ever for either. They never qualified for a World Cup or a Euros before, so this was their first one.
This was the
And
first Euros?
yeah, this was their first Euros
Oh,
ever.
that's pretty cool. No wonder you were so excited.
The last time they've ever even managed to even qualify, let's say, I think the last time even for an Olympics, I think they made it to I think either 1980 Olympics in Moscow, or even the last time it could have been the time Helsinki had the Olympics way back in '52. So not very rarely does Finland ever make some noise in soccer, but hopefully that changes, and this tournament inspires some of the Finnish youth. They have a couple of really good players, up and coming players, and for them to even get a result against Denmark under kind of very circumstances with Christian Eriksen. That was the game where Eriksen had the heart attack.
Right.
Glad that he's doing better, because that was a scary moment. And for Finland, they had to at least tie against Russia. That was the game that I would have thought that they could have gotten points, but they gave up a goal, and it was going to be a tall order for them to even get a result against Belgium, despite a valiant effort. So for Finland, if you told me that, hey, Finland still had a chance to progress to the next round on the final day, then I would have taken it. But I think it was the last day of the group where it was they had to have, I think, 4 out of the 5 different third place tie-breaking scenarios to advance, and it was close. They had to hope that France destroyed Portugal by 4 goals, which in theory could have happened, but it was just tall order when you just go into the weeds of all this third place breakdown. But I'm proud of them, and hopefully they can make a World Cup sometime in my lifetime, but we'll see.
Yeah, y'all almost had Belgium for a while. They gave out some way. I forgot what the year was, but it was something like Belgium hadn't beat Finland since, like, I don't know, like 50 or 60 years, and I was like, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it's a crazy stat, because I saw that, and Belgium is going through. I mean, they have their golden generation going through right now. So Belgium, I mean, we talk about, many of the soccer pundits, talk about how they're a solid, great team. But I mean, back in the early 2000s, they were not good at all. And the interesting thing for the interesting Finland-Belgium rivalry is that the Finnish national team nickname, the Huhkajat, that derives from a 2008 Euro qualifier between Finland and Belgium that took place in Helsinki. And there was this Finnish eagle owl who interrupted a match between them, and this was seen as a good luck charm for Finland because they ended up beating Belgium 2-0. So that's how they got their national team nickname.
Wow.
And I think the last time Finland did play Belgium was, I think, a Euro 16, like a warm-up for Belgium, but Finland was pretty stubborn, and they escaped with a 1-1 tie. So Finland, it has that knack of playing up to their opponents, but occasionally they'll play down to their opponents as well. So you never kind of quite know what you'll get from them. So
You're not gonna tell me I'm Guatemalan.
yeah,
So Guatemala does a lot of crazy stuff. Um, Not to get into that, but so are you half Finnish? I don't
yeah,
want to
half
assume.
Finnish, half Japanese. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think I remember that correctly. For the listeners that don't know, me and Kai, we met back in the old Silverback days, cheering on them. Shoot, man, I don't know how long ago that was, 5 to 10 years maybe.
yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's been a while, Kai, but some great times cheering on Silverbacks. So just to stay on the Euros, who do you have taking it?
That's a good question. Well, the weaker side of the bracket where you have, of course, at this point, there's at least 5 or 6 like good matchups in the round of 16 where I could see, okay, if I'm pulling for I'm pulling for Belgium because I think given their golden generation, they got to win something with that amount of talent that they have. But their side of the bracket is very tough. They have to play Portugal. If they beat Portugal, then they have to play the winner of the Italy-Austria game, which the way Italy's playing, Italy's probably going to beat Austria. But I mean, never know. Shocks can happen. It's going to probably boil down between Italy, Belgium, or France, I'd say. And then on the other side of the bracket, I could see, if England, whichever between, England and Germany, they're playing each other in the round of 16. So one of those teams is going to get knocked out. And the only other threatening team I could see from that side could be a Netherlands. From one side of the bracket, I'm pretty sure it's going to be between the 3 teams of Italy, Belgium, or France that makes it to the final on one end, and then either Netherlands, England, Germany on the other end. But I'll be rooting for Belgium. I think they've deserved it, and I think it'll be their last chance to win major silverware if they manage to get that far.
It's a pretty good pick. They've been playing really well. I had Germany in the beginning, but they've been struggling. And man, props to Hungary because they were in that group of death and still had a chance to go through. But so obviously Germany hasn't looked that good. But now that you're in the round of 16, things change a little bit. So even though you may have struggled in the group stages, who can beat Germany on their day, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and they're playing England. I'm not too thrilled with how England's playing. Obviously, there's been a lot of hype around how deep England is, but it's also England.
Yeah.
So they have a habit of crashing out of big tournaments. So I still have Germany taking it, but Italy's looked really good. They're actually playing attack-minded soccer and not playing really defensive like they usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Belgium's looked good. France has looked good. Netherlands, I guess, have looked good, but in all honesty, I've been rooting against him because I don't like Frank de Boer. That's a whole Atlanta United thing, but whatever. He gets it done. But yeah, like you mentioned, that the brackets are pretty tough for certain teams and other teams not so much. But I still have Germany taking it.
Yeah, Germany. Some of those teams where it's like, okay, yeah, they may be in a funk, but geez, just given the historical precedence of a team, like you can't, even though Germany may be out of funk, like you never know, they may turn it up. Like it's crazy how they can kind of soundly defeat Portugal 4-2, but then struggle against Hungary. Credit to them, Hungary was able to get 2 draws out of a group of death. So no one was expecting that at all. Germany could be the new Turkey and be a dark horse because Turkey definitely disappointed on
this year.
that front. Turkey disappointed. Poland was very disappointing. I'd say, those two teams I had way more expectations. They just crashed out. I guess it takes more than having Lewandowski on the team to do something.
Yeah, exactly. And the finals in Wembley, man. So could you imagine if England could make it all the way?
Yeah, I guess I can. That would be pretty crazy. I mean, England's the only team that has not yet had to travel outside of their own country for the Euros. So they've had a pretty big advantage as far as not having to deal with jet lag and getting on the airplanes and traveling. They can just
Jet lag. It's Europe.
well,
What's the furthest commute? Like 4 hours?
yeah. I mean, but still, I mean, but for some teams that where you have to like travel between one side of Europe to the other, I think Switzerland had the most brutal traveling. They had to
Mm-hmm.
go from Baku, which is like all the way Eastern Europe, to back to Rome and back and forth. So it's yeah, I think the Switzerland will kind of feel kind of hard done by
Mm-hmm.
all the traveling that they've had to do. I think that's like traveling from going from Atlanta to like Seattle and then back to Atlanta in like 5 days. That's kind of you know,
Yeah.
it is a lot.
I'm just messing. It's just because Europe, if you exclude Russia, it's pretty small. I think it's like the size of Brazil, but yeah, it's still travel does make a difference. But it's funny because you know when you talk about away days in England, like when you're watching the Premier League, and they're literally like going on the other side of London.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like their away days. Our closest away days in America is like you know a 5-6 hour drive.
Yep. And it's just funny how they can just drive a bus to like if it's like Chelsea, Arsenal, they can just they can just Uber there, honestly. Let's switch focus to Copa America. I've looked at the standings, I've followed like seen highlights of the games, and of course there's been some a lot of drama with certain teams, especially for Venezuela. They've had kind of a COVID hit team, which caused like 7 or 8 players, including Atlanta United's Joseph Martinez, to quarantine. What's your take on Copa America? How's it played out? Which teams have surprised you? Which teams have kind of been disappointing? Any standout players that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because of COVID, and this goes for all the tournaments. It's always going to have an asterisk, and everything's a little bit different. Even going to the World Cup qualifying, so Copa America is no different. Where they usually have 2 guests, so they go from 12 teams to 8. But because of COVID, they didn't have any guests, so they go from 10 teams to 8. So only 2 teams get eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a lot of soccer for no reason. I said at the beginning, I thought Bolivia and Venezuela are going to get eliminated, and it looks that way so far. Now it's a battle between Venezuela and Ecuador because they're both tied on 2 points. But yeah, I guess if anything, it's for seeding to be the higher seed, and maybe just getting the big teams ready for when they get to the knockout stage. But who's impressed me? Paraguay, honestly, they're sitting in second in their group, right under Argentina, and disappointingly has been Chile. I mean, they Chile and Uruguay, I thought they just would be dominating everybody, but they haven't. But even Bolivia, they have 0 points, but they've put up good fight. And Brazil is just, they're on autopilot right now. They're looking really good. So I have Argentina taking the whole thing. And I don't know if that's just me wanting Messi to finally succeed with the Argentine national team, because this has been such a seems like a burden for him. So it would be awesome to see him win, just because he's got all the accolades for club, but he hasn't won anything with Argentina. So it would be like, the cherry on top. But, it could just be another tournament where he comes up short, or worse, he misses a game-winning penalty. That would really suck for him. Yeah. And I think if they don't win anything this time, I don't know. Do you think he'd retire from the national team or wait till the World Cup?
At this point, I mean, with qualifiers, I mean, it's really, I see it being very difficult if, Messi's 34, 33, seems something like that. So, he still has I think he still has a couple more years in his prime, I'd say, to do something. So I say next year's World Cup I think definitely will be his last go around for the national team. I could see, that being his last, because I mean, because the World Cup qualifiers have already taken place for CONMEBOL, and so if you've already participated in it and played qualifying games, I mean, might as well try to ride it out and see how well y'all do, or how well they do. yeah, I mean, I think it'll be easier. That brings another good point. Like, what's easier to win, the Copa America or a World Cup? For Argentina, big threat, of course, is Brazil. So, I mean, if they can somehow get past Brazil, they'll probably win the Copa America, which, of course, would be Messi's best chance.
It is funny because in 2015 and 2017, Chile won the Copa America, so they had to beat, I believe, Brazil one year and Argentina the next year. So it's doable if Chile can do it. But yeah, he definitely has the talent. He's still, obviously, him and Ronaldo are still just, they age like fine wine. They just keep doing it even though they get older. So I think he still has a talent to be in the World Cup. It's just if he wants to, because we've seen it before where I think he retired from the national team twice.
Yeah.
And he came back. So, it'll be interesting to see how this tournament plays out and what his future looks like. And it's looking like he's going to re-sign with Barcelona too. Yeah. So, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was about to say, mention about Barcelona, because I know, this season's kind of been a disaster for Barcelona. Barcelona just not just in La Liga, but front office, stuff has been kind of in a whirlpool of whether Messi's going to stay or leave, and I'm sure that's kind of caused a lot of frustration for him. So it's gonna, as a professional soccer player making millions of dollars a year, sometimes you may get to that point. It's like, is it worth even continuing putting up with the shenanigans? I can just go and retire somewhere along the beach and just live out the rest of my life with my family. So
not retire on the beach, come to MLS, bro.
Oh yeah, come to MLS, play for Sporting Kansas City. That'll be
well, that's I guess it's not going to happen if he signs with Barcelona, but there were talks of him, signing with Man City and also have an agreement at a certain time where he would play for New York City. So I don't know if I guess that's off the table now since he's probably going to sign with Barca. But yeah, it's obviously, you're an athlete, and we sometimes don't realize that they're actual people. So Messi's comfortable there, and I think he likes where he's at. So it would have been nice to see him do what Ronaldo did, and prove it at different clubs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it is what it is.
Yeah, I want to talk a little briefly about since we mentioned about Finland. Of course, you're Guatemalan. They're they're not able to qualify for next year's World Cup, unfortunately.
You trying to hurt my feelings, Kai?
Try to poke the bear a little bit.
Wait, is Finland still in contention?
They are still in contention because it's
realistic contention.
Well, right now they're in second place in their group. I mean,
oh wow,
they're in Finland's in the toughest group for the Euros. For the World Cup. They in their qualifying group they got the top team in each pot in there. So it's so you have Finland, you have so besides Finland you have France, Ukraine, Bosnia, and then Kazakhstan. So it's a 5-team group, which is pretty small, and each of those teams, France, of course, recent World Cup winners. Then Ukraine was one of the top seeds in Pot B, and then Bosnia was the top seed in Pot D, and then Kazakhstan was the top team in the worst pot. So it's Finland just didn't get any luck with that. They've played 2 games thus far. I mean, they tied. They got a disappointing home tie against Bosnia, but they kind of made it up with a last-minute tie against Ukraine in Kiev. So. Yeah, it's going to be a tough order. I hope they make it, but I don't know. The Ukraine, I think, is going to be. They may snag that second seed. France is going to be too tough. But
so is it kind of with the Euros where it's top 2 and then a couple of third place teams?
No. The for the UEFA qualifiers, the top team in each group qualifies directly, and then I believe only the second place team can.
Oh, that's right.
Like a 2-legged playoff. So I think France is going to take that top seed, and then Finland could realistically get that second seed, but yeah, they're going to have to pull off a home win against Ukraine and get a defeat Kazakhstan and Bosnia to do it. So,
and then even if they make it, they still got to play that two-legged
yeah,
series, which is going to be anybody who's in that second spot is going to be good.
exactly. That's gonna be tough.
Yeah,
But
UEFA's a tough qualifying region, but it's just because Europe has so many countries.
yeah, so many countries, so many top countries, quality countries as well in soccer. I mean, for the most part, I mean, I'd say, yeah, UEFA, CONMEBOL, and I'd say even Africa's qualifiers are very tough as well. So those are, yeah, probably the three toughest, confederations to get a World Cup spot.
So what about Japan? How are they doing?
Japan, they've cruised in their qualifying group to the third round. So in Asia, there's 3 rounds. So the first round is all for the weaker Asian teams that they play like a 2-legged tie. So you got teams like Sri Lanka and Maldives that are minnows in the confederation, and then those minnows that beat the other minnows, they get a spot in the second round where you have then you have everybody else joining in, given different pots of strength. So Japan, they easily cruised by. They had Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, and Myanmar all in their group, and they won all their games. So now they're in progress to round 3, and I think the draw for round 3 will take place next month. So I think Japan and Iran are the top 2 Asian teams, so they're not going to be in the same group. So there's 5 different pots and 2 teams in each pot. So Japan and Iran is in one pot, and then the next strongest pot is South Korea and Australia. And then I think after that's China and Syria. And then there's Vietnam, Bahrain, or Lebanon. And then I can't remember the other 2 teams. But anyway, I think Japan has a pretty solid chance to qualify for next year's World Cup. It'll be
well, they always qualify, don't they? When's the last time they didn't qualify?
94. That was the last time. So
man,
they're on a roll. So yeah,
maybe Guatemala should go to the Asia Confederation and see if they do a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, what's been going on with Guatemala? I know they a couple years ago they got suspended by FIFA for a whole year, and that kind of ruined any type of momentum for them. And we're trying to look back and see, what were they in the same group with Curacao, and they got edged out by them.
Yeah, and I don't know. Edged out is an interesting word to use, because they both didn't beat each other, but the way it worked, it was a one leg group stage instead of everybody playing home and away.
That's right.
So it just turned into who beat the crap out of the worst teams more, and because Guatemala lost by 1 goal, and it sucks. And this is what we just been talking about this whole time, is COVID, and it's changing things. So it is what it is, and now we just have to hope for me is to hope that Guatemala can qualify for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, that's right. That's coming up next month. Does Guatemala have any up and coming players that can draw a lot of interest from outside of Guatemala?
That's kind of and I've talked with my other relatives that are Guatemalan too. It seems like this Guatemalan team is pretty weak. The only big names that we've had recently was Marco Papa, who played for Seattle Sounders, and then we had Carlos Ruiz, who was the pretty much our Landon Donovan. Mm-hmm. He would score all our goals. So as soon as he left, the goals dried up. So it's just one of those things that Guatemala they've always had issues, and it kind of sucks because we've Costa Rica has qualified, Honduras, I believe El Salvador, Trinidad, a lot of all these other countries, Panama too. Mm-hmm. All these other countries have qualified for the World Cup, but Guatemala hasn't. So it's kind of like when's it going to be our turn? Mm-hmm. So I'm just hoping that now with the 2026 World Cup, with the expanded format, that maybe they might be able to creep in there, because I think CONCACAF is going to get, I think 5 spots now, up from 3.5 spots. So that it makes the odds better, at least.
Yeah. And it feels like, I mean, like you mentioned, like for Carlos Ruiz and Marco Papal. I mean, they spent some time in MLS, and there's been other Guatemalan players that've been in MLSs as well. So it seems like, I mean, if players can make a leap from Honduras, I mean, I've seen a lot of Honduran players like make a leap from their national league to MLS. It seems like Guatemala has that can. I know, like, I mean, it sounds easier said than done, but it seems like, there's enough talent that they can at least try to maybe not MLS, but maybe USL Championship, or even like a Mexican team potentially.
Ooh, you just made a lot of Mexicans mad.
What? It's I mean,
You're saying they can't make it to MLS, but they can make it to a Mexican
No,
club?
I didn't say that. I said that if they can make like like it doesn't have to be the Liga MX, can be line.
I get you.
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you, Kai. But
Okay.
yeah, it's funny because me and my dad joke around because obviously we know the U.S. didn't qualify for the World Cup last time. So like now when we go up against Honduras, Panama, and these other Central American teams where a lot of their players are playing in MLS, it's almost like MLS is making their national teams better, which is going to be harder for the U.S. men's national team to qualify. So it's like it's a pro and con thing because you want those Central Americans to come to MLS or, even to break into Liga MX. But then it sometimes comes back to bite you in the butt when you're going through qualifying.
Mm-hmm. And well, then you also see that transition of, okay, a lot of younger American players then even move into to Europe to get some playing time. I mean, not even a decade. I mean, 5 or 6 years ago, like hardly any. I mean, you still had a few players playing in Europe, but not the extent that we have. The talent pool in the U.S. right now. It seemed like the entire, like 80% of the regulars are playing in Europe, which at a high league too, which is promising to see.
It's pretty awesome. I mean, this is if we would have seen this 5 years ago, this many Americans in Europe, and not just in Europe, but they're actually starting for their clubs like Barcelona and Chelsea. We would have been going crazy. So now it's just awesome to see all these young Americans just tearing it up in Europe. It's just kudos to whatever approach they took, because there's a lot of debate on whether they should go to college in America or join a soccer academy or just go straight to Europe. But either way, somehow something worked, that these teams are performing that way. So I look forward to when we start playing qualifying games. I take it that we're going to qualify, but I never thought we wouldn't have. Yeah. So that's always in the back of your mind, especially with the format changing now where instead of a hexagonal, it's an octagonal. So we're going to have 8 teams in there. And, we'll see what if Canada decides to show up in this qualifying, because they always find a way to bomb out as well. And speaking of, man, is that the new U.S. jersey?
No, that is not the new U.S. jersey. This is probably like a couple years ago.
I like it though. It's tight.
Thank you. I try to every episode. I try to put on like a different jersey. So.
Dang, man, I should take the same approach.
Yeah. So
my problem is I got the COVID-15, so all my jerseys are busting at the seams. But hey, a quick question. So your countries that you go for, U.S., Finland, and Japan, right?
Yeah, especially definitely.
Do you have like an order of operations, or does it depend on the situation?
Oh, like who's my favorites of the 3?
Yeah, let's say if they all had to play each other, and let's say there was something on the line, where does your heart lie first, second, and third?
My heart would lie first with Finland, because it's just like they're like the minnows of those 3 countries. So I would hope.
So Finland and U.S. in the World Cup knockout. Who are you going for?
Probably Finland. Yeah.
Dang, Kai.
Yeah. That's probably not going to ever happen, because Finland's not going to. I mean, they don't have a.
Whoa! You can't. They're never going to qualify. Is that what you're going to say?
It's going to be tough, especially with this group that they're in. It's going to be tough. That's like. It's a very, very tough group.
Hey, 2026. I don't know. Europe is gonna have like 20 teams qualify for the World Cup.
Probably. I mean, if they have that many, then Finland was able to benefit from the expanded format, so that would help.
You gotta cling on to hope somehow.
Yes.
That's mine.
Yeah. But back to probably Finland. Japan, and then the United States. Like it's a
The U.S. is last.
out of those three, I'd say so.
Dang, Kai,
Yeah,
and you rocking the U.S. jersey too.
I am rocking the U.S. jersey because
See,
it's
I'm the opposite. U.S. is number one. Obviously, I'm just Guatemalan.
mhm.
There's a tiny bit of Mexican in me, but very very tiny.
Yeah.
Um, so I'll go with U.S. 9 times out of 10 if they
Mhm.
match up against Guatemala. I think there was only one time where I was rooting for either a tie or a Guatemala win because they were in the group stage and qualify. And somehow every time Guatemala makes it, they always end up in a group with U.S. It never fails. And I was like, why can't they be a part? So usually I would root for the U.S. to win at home, and then if Guatemala's playing at home, a draw or maybe a Guatemala win wouldn't be the worst thing because most of the time at that early stage,
Yeah.
the U.S. can still go through.
Yeah.
But if there ever was something on the line, like let's say the Gold Cup elimination round or World Cup
Mhm.
elimination, I would pull for the U.S.
Okay. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just more of like okay, yeah, and like I like my ancestral background and whatnot. So I just root for him.
Hey, whatever floats your boat, Kai.
Exactly, exactly. What do you think of how the World Cup got moved to a winter World Cup, so that's going to be interesting in Qatar. Very early prediction? Who do you think is going to win?
Man, it's really lame that they did that, first of all. But Qatar bought their way through. It is what it is. Everybody loves money. But it's going to be interesting to see, having it in the winter. And because, during summer, just everybody's free. The kids are in school.
Mhm.
You take more vacations. In winter, it's going to be an interesting way to watch the World Cup. Yeah, obviously France won it last time. They look pretty good so far. Portugal's there. Ronaldo's still killing it. It's really tough to say. I think the Euros are going to show a lot. But I honestly, what's it been? I think it's been at least over 3 World Cups that a South American team has won it.
Yeah, 2002. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think they're overdue. So I
Yeah.
think either Argentina or Brazil might take it. So I don't know if that's a form of favoritism, but I just feel like it's time. I always say this though, but if Brazil and Argentina could cut their countries in like eights,
Mm-hmm.
and they each had a national team, they would all be competing against the top teams in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just, Brazil's one country with 80 million people, and you can only field one national team.
Yeah.
But they have so many good players. That's why every time, even if you're watching a random Japanese club play,
Mm-hmm.
their 3 Brazilians on their
Yeah.
team.
Yeah, I mean that's like for a lot of the Asian leagues in general. Like you can have like you know 5 or 6 Brazilians all on a team, and they're like
Everywhere, man. Even Liga MX, they have a ton of players just everywhere because there's just so much talent that's produced there.
Mhm.
And then their fifth squad would replace most nations' squads around the world. Their first squad.
Oh yeah, definitely. Heck, there's even some Brazilians playing in the Finnish leagues, so it's like you know.
It's a good way to make a living.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, David, I appreciate you having the time to join on my podcast. I'll upload this on the YouTube as soon as I can, and I'll have to join on your show sometime.
Yeah, man, it was fun. I mean, I could talk about soccer forever. There's just so much. I didn't even get to talk to you about Atlanta United or
Oh,
MLS, all this stuff, but
we can save that for
we'll save
another
it, man.
time, and I can be a guest on your show at some point.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that'd be so much fun. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I like your Soccerpedia podcast, and Jason Longshore, and I
Yeah.
like listening to him too. He's very very smart, very technical. So
Yeah.
good podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to get, on this podcast, I've gotten several pretty decent, like either like former professional players or even some current pro players that's represented their national team. I think a few months ago I had a El Salvador national player on the podcast, Pablo Punyed. So yeah,
It's pretty cool.
yeah, I just hit them up through social media, and I just hope that they respond. So some of them respond. So it's like, I've already tried to message Ronaldo and Messi on Instagram, but
that's next week, right?
yeah, that's gonna be next week, and I'll have my NordVPN sponsorship very soon. So
But why have Messi or Ronaldo when you can have me?
exactly when I can. Yep. But cool. Thanks for coming on, and enjoy your weekend. And we'll have to collaborate soon
Yeah,
again.
thanks for having me on. It was a
Cool, man.
blast.
Cool, man. Take care.
See ya.